Alright team, we've got another workout video for you today, for the Tuesday workout this week. It's a nice simple one this week. It's every minute on the minute for 32 minutes, so essentially 8 rounds of what's on the board. Each section have got pretty much the same time component to them, so you've got 40 seconds, 40 seconds, 40 seconds, and then the hollow hold at the end is 20 to 40. Remember, you've got a minute to do each section, so that's going to be 40 seconds working, 20 seconds resting. And the same as if you do 20 seconds, you'll rest for 40. If you do 40 seconds, you rest for 20. You've got weighted single leg glute bridges in the first minute, press ups in the second minute, ice skaters in the third minute. Don't worry if you don't know what they are, because I'll explain. And then some form of hollow hold variation in there. So you've got fairly short rounds, but we've got lots of rounds to get through across the whole thing. So just remember, when you're choosing scaling options, it's not just going to be a case of what's hard or easy for 40 seconds, but also how hard or easy is it going to be to do that for 8 rounds as well. The single leg glute bridges you've got in here at the start, in terms of weighting them, and I would only weight these if you can already do them comfortably with your body weight, you're going to be set up, laid on your back like this, nice comfortable position for you, and we're looking to try and take you from here, push up, try and get your hips extended, back down to the bottom, like that. If you struggle with them at all, body weight, you can get a second foot down and do it with both feet at the same time. If you're feeling fairly comfortable with them, then you could add the weight in, but you've got to make sure that you can get into a good position at the top each time without weight before you try and add weight in. If you're going to add weight, I would sit the weight on your hips like this, same setup position, and you're trying to drive that weight up and away from you whilst it sits on your hips. So the main important thing with them is to make sure you can do the body weight variation properly before you try and add in any weight to them. And obviously the weight will dictate how heavy it is if you are going to add weight. Remember, with press-up variations, they can be full press-ups, or they can be press-ups from your knees, or they can be a combination. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all of one progression or all of one from the other. I would say within 40 seconds, if you do want to break it up a little bit, no problem, it doesn't necessarily have to be completely unbroken, but try and make sure you're working for the majority of that 40 seconds. If you're in a position where you're trying to work full press-ups into your sort of programming and get to grips with them a little bit, you could maybe do 3 or 4 full press-ups at the start where you have your legs off the floor, and then just go down to doing them from your knees after. So the main message there is it doesn't need to be one or the other, it could be a combination of the two. Now your ice skaters, it's a very showbiz exercise. We're basically looking to jump you from side to side. So I'm starting on the one foot and I'm jumping over to the other foot, back across. So you'll be doing 40 seconds from one leg to the other like that. See, how hard you jump and how fast you go back and forth with them is going to dictate how hard they are in terms of you getting out of breath. If you struggle with the balance aspect of them, you can always try and slow them down a little bit, or you could do it as a reverse lateral lunge where you start in this sort of position, you could step across like that, step across on the other side. So you've got a similar sort of movement, you've got a bit of side-to-side stability, but it's probably going to be easier to do it that way than it is with the jumps across. But otherwise we're just going to start you on one foot, the jump across, and we want to make sure you're nice and stable when you're landing each time. The hollow hold, the most important thing with them is that whatever progression you do, you're able to stay in your hollow position, believe it or not. So if we want to look at the full variation, that's going to be legs out, arms out, set up, sling like this, where I've just got this bottom part of my torso touching the floor. If I start to finish in a position like this, where my back is touching the floor, my shoulders are touching the floor, that's not really ideal, and now this part of my torso is lifted off the floor. If you're struggling with that at all, you could always scale it, so you could bring your knees in to a tuck and set up like that. So again, it's just this bottom part that's touching the floor, or I could even bring my arms in like that to do the same thing. The big goal there is, do you stay in that hollow position? That's the sort of be-all, end-all in terms of those exercises. And you want to choose a variation where you can do a minimum of 20 seconds in that tucked down position. Okay, so it's well worth just sort of playing around with them before you start and making sure you know what variation you're going for. But as soon as this bottom part of your torso lifts off the floor, you're not going to be doing yourself any good, so just be really strict on your technique with them. In terms of a warm-up, this is what I've written up on my board here. Just to confirm some of the bits that are in there, the Cossack squats is going to be you set up with your feet wide like this, and you're essentially just squatting down to the side and back to standing, so it'll be 5 on each side like that. The Rev lunge is a reverse lunge, so you're just stepping back and up to standing, so you'll have 5 on each leg with them. And then the front leaning rest knee raises is going to be you in your press up position, knee comes up underneath you like that, and that'll also be 5 on each side. You've then got reverse lateral lunges, which is the scaling option that I mentioned for the ice skaters. So you'll do 5 to each side with those. You've got the glute bridges in there, that's on 2 legs, the ice skaters, and then the single leg bridges on 1 leg. And the most important thing when you're doing those warm-up bridges is making sure, can I get to hips extended without any weight in the warm-up? And if you can tick that box, great, get some weight involved. And remember that as those hips extend, we want to make sure that you're not arching your back, but you can just stay in a straight line through this position. And that's the same if you're on 1 leg as well. So again, we're fairly specific on what we're looking for with the technique for them. As always, if you've got any questions about anything more specific to you than what I've gone over today, please get in touch with me or get in touch with one of the other coaches, and hopefully we can give you some more specific guidance. But otherwise, enjoy the session, enjoy your week. We'll do another video again next week.